Hello everyone, it's Charles Watts here from Goal, Arsenal correspondent. How are you? I hope you're well. A bit of mad times. I'm here in my bedroom, locked up at home. Not permanently locked up. I'm not on lockdown. I haven't shown any symptoms or anything like that, so I can go out, as per Mr. Boris Johnson says, and go out for my one daily jog once, no more than once. And I'm sure everyone is in the same position, so I hope you're dealing with it as best as you can. And for anyone who actually is showing symptoms, has got the virus, I hope you're dealing with that as best as you can, and you'll soon be back to top health. And anyone who who's had some real bad issues with this, and with families and loved ones and everything like that, again, my thoughts, wishes go out to you all, and I hope everyone gets through this really challenging few months as best as we can. I haven't done a video for a while. Obviously not much going on with Arsenal at the moment. Players are on lockdown. They were due to come back on Tuesday to London Colney. That was the sort of schedule they were working to from when Mikel Arteta tested positive for coronavirus a fortnight ago. But then we found out, obviously, on Monday morning that wasn't going to be the case. Arsenal released a statement saying it'd be irresponsible and inappropriate to bring the players back given the current climate in this country. And then obviously later that evening, Boris Johnson introduced the nationwide lockdown anyway, so the players wouldn't be able to go to work and be training. So football's off indefinitely, well, until the end of April, but it's going to be longer than that. We all know that. And when Arsenal will return to training, we have no idea. The club's doing the best they can. The players are still at home, still doing their workouts, still eating, following the dietary requirements that have been pushed out by the club. Those who've got gyms are doing doing sort of what the club have told them to do fitness wise, and they're following fitness plans. Those who haven't got gyms at home have been sent equipment by Arsenal for them to keep in best shape as possible. But there's only there's no real substitute for actually being out on the training pitch at London Colney day after day. So when the players do eventually get back, then it's going to take an awful long time to get to full fitness, given the length of the time that we're going to be off. Because although they're saying end of April, it's not going to be end of April. We know that. So when we see this season finished, who knows? But that's not what I'm here to talk about. That was basically, that was the update. That's all I can say about the coronavirus situation with Arsenal, because nothing much has moved on from that. So what I said last time I did one of these videos, I said I'd do a Q&A at some point, to just go through any questions people have and answer them, and just try and sort of fill the void left by Arsenal at the moment, and at least try and help you out understanding what's going on at the moment. So I've got some questions. I put it out on Twitter the other day. I put it out about a week ago. And I'm just reading, Prince Charles has tested positive for coronavirus just as I was starting this thing, just seeing it all sort of emerge on my computer now. Big news from the palace that Prince Charles has tested positive, apparently doing all right, but is now in isolation, obviously. I put a message out on Twitter last week, I think it was, asking for questions. Anyone wanted to get involved to ask questions, and I'll pop on here and I'll do my best to answer them as best as I can. So here we go. I thought I'd do it, and there's been a few of you been replying to these videos as well with questions, so I'll flick through some of those in a minute as well to see if I can answer them. Apologies if I'm not going to be looking at camera all the time during this, because I've got to look down and look at the questions that have come in. I'm not ignoring you, I'm not shy, but that's it's just the way it's going to work. So I'll start off now with a question on Twitter from Laurent Dupont, I think. It sounds French. Apologies if that's wrong. And that's, what is your most underrated Arsenal player of all time? I've got to say, randomly, I was talking about this on Twitter. I can't remember who it was to just this week. I think it was James, Gunnerblog. It was because Arsenal tweeted Ray Parler's hat-trick against Werder Bremen all those years ago. What fantastic hat-trick it was. And I said to James, I generally think Ray Parler's most underrated player in Premier League history. He's definitely my most underrated player. He was so good. He doesn't get anywhere near the credit he deserves, Ray Parler. Just a fantastic player. I'll never forget his performance at Wembley in the 1998 Cup final against Newcastle. He was so good. It was just one of the best individual performances. He hit the post, I remember, late on, a really good run, hit the post, outside of the post. And I just remember thinking, no one would have deserved that goal more than him. He was just so good. I was so happy to see him score in the FA Cup final against Chelsea a few years later, because he absolutely deserved it. Great in the 98 run-in. He was there in 2002, 2003, 4 as well. And, just the whole, from George Graham era, going through Bruce Rioch and then through to Arsene Wenger, where he just stepped up. He should have gone to the 1998 World Cup. The fact he didn't go to the 1998 World Cup was just ridiculous. All because of that short. I'll have a short haircut. He said to was it Eileen Drury? Was it Glenn Hoddle's the woman Glenn Hoddle brought in to cleanse everyone's minds, and Ray Parlour made a joke, and that was it. That was his chance at the World Cup gone. But yeah, absolutely, Ray Parlour, just fantastic player. So underrated. Maybe not so much by people at Arsenal. I think a lot of people at Arsenal realised just how good he was. Certainly the fans. But yeah, outside of Arsenal, just did not get the credit he deserved. He was such a good footballer. Fantastic player. Chipped in with goals, assists. Just did not stop running. He was so good. So yeah, Ray Parlour, my most underrated player. Evan asks, what positions do you think Arsenal will target in the summer or whenever the window ends up being? Good question, Evan. Look, I think they're certainly going to bring in a midfielder, central midfielder. I think that's a priority for Arsenal at the moment, a box-to-box type midfielder. Never really replaced Aaron Ramsey. I think that's very much on the agenda at Arsenal this summer, is to get in a central midfielder. I think a right back as well. Obviously got Hector at the moment. Depends what happens with Cedric Suarez. But I think right back they're certainly going to be looking at centre back as well, and then it kind of depends what happens with Aubameyang. If Aubameyang goes, then certainly a striker will come in. I know they're looking at strikers already. They're exploring the options. They're getting things in place in case Aubameyang does go, or potentially even Lacazette. Look, Jonathan David over in Belgium. He's a player they've looked at. They know, they've expressed their interest in him. Awful lot of clubs looking at David as well. Only issue with Arsenal with that is that he doesn't want to go anywhere. He doesn't think he's going to play. He's going to take a lot of time deciding his next move. Got a lot of clubs chasing him. I think, from what I understand, Germany's looking a more appealing option than England at the moment for Jonathan David in terms of the next stage of his career. He doesn't want to go somewhere, like I said, and struggle for game time, because he just wants to play. And whether he'll get that at Arsenal, not so sure. But they're looking at him. There's a couple other players they're certainly on the agenda for Arsenal. Edouard up at Celtic has been mentioned, and so I think we'll have to wait and see what happens with Aubameyang. But certainly a striker will be on the agenda if they don't manage to keep hold of Auba. But yeah, I think central midfielder, right back, and centre back certainly on the agenda at Arsenal, and then depending on what happens with Aubameyang, striker as well. Generational asks, why on earth did you mock up Lacazette at number 9 for a game away at City? He hasn't scored away from home in the league for over a year. His link-up play is bad. His hold-up is bad. You also don't beat up City by holding the ball up. I'm going to need a full explanation for this. Okay, Generational, I will explain why I thought that. I also think you're wrong when you talk about his hold-up play being bad. It's not bad at all. It's best at Arsenal in terms of the forwards. People got short memories with Alexander. He was so good last season. He was player of the season for a reason last year. And it wasn't for his goals, because he didn't score anywhere near as many as Aubameyang. But he was player of the season for his all-round game. He was excellent. Go back to Tottenham. When was that? March, away at Tottenham, and Aubameyang, Emery left Aubameyang out for Lacazette. At that point, no one really questioned that decision. I remember the pundits in the studio questioning it, but most Arsenal fans didn't question it at all, because they knew, Lacazette had been playing really well. They knew how good he is at holding the ball up. And you look at the goal he made, he laid on for Ramsey that game as well, holding it up on halfway line, turning, slipping the ball into Ramsey. That's what Lacazette's about. And I felt at Manchester City, sorry, cough there, I haven't got it, don't worry. I felt at Manchester City, Arsenal were going to rely on the runners breaking through, because they weren't going to have much of the ball, but you can get at City at pace. Now, I know Lacazette's not fast, but I do think you need a focal point to hold up the play and bring in the runners who leg it on past you, and I felt Lacazette was the best person for that. I think whenever I've seen at times when Auba's been playing at number 9, Martinelli certainly when he plays at number 9, the ball bounces off him. Sometimes the ball gets played up to him. If you're absorbing so much pressure at the back, when you finally get the ball forward towards the centre circle, you want someone with a bit of strength who can back into the defender holding up and then play the balls into the runners going behind. And that's what, for me, that was Lacazette is best at that in the Arsenal squad. So that's why I felt he should have played. And then he could have had the Martinelli's, Aubameyangs, Nelson's even, the fast, pacey wingers coming in from the side. and feeding off him and feeding off his strength and getting onto the flick. So that's my reasoning. Agree with it or don't agree with it, but that's my reasoning. Gabriel Saunders asked, do you want Mr. Thomas Partey? We were just talking about their Arsenal with central midfielders, and Partey I do think is very, very appealing player. Arsenal have looked at him in the past. He's got a decent release clause at the moment, about 50 million. Atletico are trying to extend that and get a new deal agreed with him. Whether they can or not, I don't know, but he's a player Arsenal like, they've looked at, and he's an impressive player. He's great against Liverpool, and it would certainly be an improvement at Arsenal. It'd make the team stronger. So absolutely, I'd like that. David Bubb, oh, this is a horrible one. Most devastating Arsenal loss you've experienced? Well, I was in. I'm going to be coughing the way through this. You're going to think I've got coronavirus, but I'm not. It's just because I'm talking a lot and I haven't got water up here. Nightmare. Most devastating Arsenal loss you've experienced? Well, I was in Paris for the Champions League final with my dad in the stands. Devastated. Still can't watch it. Any of the highlights from that game, absolutely can't watch it. I was in Paris again for the Real Zaragoza Cup Winners' Cup final defeat in '95. Naeem from the halfway line. Devastating. As a kid as well, what was I, 13 at that point? And Naeem scored at the last minute of extra time. Horrible. I was in Copenhagen for the Galatasaray UEFA Cup final defeat. That was horrible. I still think Chelsea at Highbury in the 2004 Champions League, then the quarterfinals, Wayne Bridges winner. It was the most devastated I've ever been by a defeat. A, because we were better than Chelsea. We hadn't lost to them about 25 games at that point. We were the best team in the world at that point, and we should have won the Champions League. Everyone knew it, and I was just to be 1-0 up at half time, heading through, and then you could actually see it on the pitch in that second half. You could see the players getting tired and Chelsea getting stronger, and I think it was Lampard equalised, wasn't it, when Lehmann spilled someone's shot, I think Makelele's shot, and then Wayne Bridge, and I was sitting, when me and my dad, our season tickets were at Highbury, we were right by the away fans, and I'll just never forget the celebrations from the Chelsea fans and having to walk past them and back down the stairs and out the stadium. And as we were going out the stadium, the result came through from Monaco Real Madrid as well, that Monaco had knocked out Madrid, and I got on the train on the way home, and I remember I was so gutted that I missed my stop. I was coming back. Where was I? I come back from Paddington, and I missed my stop. And I still to this day don't know what station I ended up at. But I just remember looking and thinking, where the hell am I? I wasn't concentrating, and I just totally missed my stop and ended up in some random station in London I don't think I've ever heard of before or since. And had to end up going back to Paddington again. Yeah, I was just still. I think that was the worst. It was worse than any of the final defeats. Sorry if you can hear screaming downstairs. That's my two kids who are down there being homeschooled by my wife at the moment. So I'd say Chelsea 2004 Champions League quarter-final was just really tough to take. Leeds as well in 1999 away to Leeds, the 1-0 Hasselbank at the back post when we handed Man United the title, and actually Old Trafford Villa Park that season, Ryan Giggs' goal and Dennis Bergkamp's penalty miss in the FA Cup semi-finals. Arsenal was so much better than United that season. Ended up winning nothing, and United won the treble and had that semi-final. Bergkamp stuck away the penalty. That season would have been so different. So there's plenty of them there to choose from, but I still think probably Chelsea in the Champions League, just horrible. The season where we only signed Cech and Leicester won the league, whose decision was it not to buy a top striker, Wenger or the board? I think it's kind of it was Wenger at the end of the day. It was Wenger had the choice. He could have signed players, didn't. Felt the squad was good enough. I don't think the board probably should have put more pressure on him to do it if they really wanted to challenge and kick on that season. Didn't, but the Wenger had full control of the transfers, and the money was there at that point, and he chose not to buy. So that was the reason. Which Arsenal goal have you ever crazy celebrated and crazy did you go? I think this goal I've celebrated the most as a fan. Well, 1989 when Michael Thomas won the league in last minute. I wasn't there, obviously. I was actually watching it with my friend. I was on holiday with him and his family. We were in a caravan somewhere. God knows where, I can't remember. He was a Liverpool fan. And I was only 8 at the time. And I was watching it in the caravan with his dad and him. I remember his mum was sitting outside talking to her friends. And I watched that game and went so mad when that goal went in. I actually damaged the caravan so much that when they sold it, they had to take money off because of the damage that I'd caused celebrating the goal. As an 8-year-old, that's pretty impressive. But I think the one I went most mad at, there's been so many, are Shavins at against Barcelona, just brilliant. I think the two that really stand out, I remember in the 2002 title running, Arsenal beat West Ham 2-0. It was a really tight game. We weren't playing well, and I think Ashley Cole made an amazing clearance from Canute in the first half. It was actually over the line, but they didn't have goal line technology at that point. It did so the goal wasn't given, and West Ham probably would have deserved to be in front at that point. Arsenal weren't playing that well. It was really one of those edgy title running nights when you felt you've got to get a win, you've got to win it, and I think about 10 minutes to go, Bergkamp set off on his run through the middle, and just as the whole run in that season was about Bergkamp-Lundberg link up, and Lundberg rolled it in and made it 1-0. The relief around Highbury, incredible. It was just brilliant celebrations with that one. I always remember that. But Aaron Ramsey's goal in the FA Cup final in 2014 just meant so much for me for so many reasons. Obviously, it was the end of the trophy drought, but my mum had died a few weeks before the funeral. Was about 3 days before the game, before the final, and we were there. Me and my dad. It was like the first time we'd really been out since, and it was just such an emotional day, from start to finish, and just there was so much emotion built up because of what had happened, and it was I just wanted to win so much. And then suddenly you're 2-0 down, and it looked like we were going to throw away the FA Cup, and then the comeback, and when Ramsey's goal went in extra time, just all the emotion. I just remember letting it out, and it's just incredible celebrations. My dad, and special goal, one of my most special goals I've ever seen Arsenal score, and meant an awful lot. So I'd say probably that one. I nearly actually fainted after the celebrations. It was just when you sort of the lull after you've celebrated so much, and then suddenly you kind of stop, and I nearly fainted. So I'd go with that. What else we got? If we sell Auber in the summer, who would your realistic replacement be? Oh god, realistic replacement for Aubameyang. I mean, how do you replace someone who scores the amount of goals that Aubameyang does? Really, really difficult one to call. I probably should have thought about this before I came on. I don't know. I like Edouard at Celtic, but I don't know if he's. I don't. It's a big jump. I'm not saying that necessarily is a bad thing. Look, that you shouldn't sign him, but I do like him. What I've seen of him, he looks a talented player. Another ex-Celtic player, actually, Dembele at Lyon. I like him. I think he's decent. What I've seen of him, strong, can cope with the Premier League, I'd imagine. I think he'd be a decent shout. There's quite a few I'd say, but I'd go with I'd have to think about it a little bit more, but I'd go with now maybe I like Jonathan David as well. What I've seen of him, but I think he's young as well. So can you realistically replace Aubameyang with someone like Jonathan David? I don't know. It's a big ask on such a young player. Martinelli's here already, and I think Martinelli will score plenty of goals when he's played up central striker. So there are a few choices, but I don't know. I just think I'd rather keep Aubameyang, to be honest. Out of everything, I'd just rather keep Aubameyang, even if it's just for one more year, and let him go on a free, because I think you've got much more chance of qualifying for the Champions League next season if you've got Aubameyang up front, as long as he's committed and he doesn't just see out his contract. I think you've got a lot more chance of doing what Arsenal need to do next season if you've got him up front. So I'd rather keep him. If the leagues don't finish before June 30th, does Ceballos go back to Madrid and Saliba, Mickey and Elneny come back to Arsenal, and are they eligible to play? It's a difficult one. It's not even been decided yet, so I just can't answer it. At the moment, what they're looking at is possible weekly contracts being given out, or short-term contracts being given out, but it's all up in the air at the moment. Agents that I've spoke to still aren't exactly sure how it's gonna work, and they're still trying to deal with it with the clubs and with the authorities at the moment. So it's really difficult for me to answer that, I'm afraid, at the moment, because there just isn't a definitive answer for it. But thank you for the question. Who was that was from Dan. Summer transfer budget. It's from Lacazette Easter 9, I think. I can't give it, I'm afraid. Again, it's not been decided yet. Arsenal don't know what competition, European competition, if any, they're going to be playing in next season. So there isn't really a fixed transfer budget at the moment, so I just can't answer that, I'm afraid, at this point. It's not going to be lots. There's no way it's going to be lots. I think we all saw the losses that Arsenal posted in their recent club accounts. There's again got another season without Champions League football. So we've had another season without Champions League football, potentially looking at another if Arsenal don't get into the top 5 whenever this season ends. So it's not going to be much, but it wasn't that much last year, and they still managed to get an awful lot of deals done by structuring it in a decent way. So I wouldn't worry too much about the transfer budget at the moment. What degree of influence, this comes from Maximus, what degree of influence or power do you believe Arteta has with any incoming and outgoing players? Not sure what you get. I think if you mean in terms of who comes in and who goes into, does Arteta have a say, then yes, he absolutely has a say. Unai Emery had a say, but ultimately Arteta will say, kind of tell those above him the sort of player he wants. Those above him will say, look, this is who we could possibly get, this is who's available, this is who we've been talking to, who do you want out of this lot? And then Arteta will say, okay, I like him, we can try and get something done for him. So it's very much a group collective now, whereas before with Arsene Wenger, it was all Arsene did everything. His scouting network, he had his own scouting network basically. He was involved in the negotiations and all that, but it doesn't work like that now. We moved away from that when Wenger left and Gazidis brought in the new model. Obviously Gazidis did a bunker and legged it off to Milan, and Raul's come in now, but it's still operating in a similar way. You got the head of recruitment, Francis Cagiao, you got Raul, you got Edu, the technical director, you got Arteta. Everyone's involved in the mix when it comes to making a decision. But Arteta certainly has a say. He's not, he doesn't just get players dumped on him. He doesn't just have players taken away from him. But I think when it comes to, say, Aubameyang, that's something that's not really going to be in Arteta's control. He's not going to have a say. If the club decide that look, we got to sell him because he's got 1 year left on his contract, then Arteta can protest about that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a club decision. And Arteta's head coach at the end of the day. He knows that. He kind of knows his position. He'll be disappointed, I'm sure he will. He's already made it clear he wants to keep Aubameyang at all costs, was his quote. But if Arsenal take the decision that a 30-40 million pound bid comes in from him, we're going to lose him on a free the following year, then we have to sell, and he's not going to be able to stop that. So that's kind of how it stands. Kushagra, sorry again if I get these names wrong, really apologise. With Arteta saying that no Champions League football has affected us big time, do you see us letting go of Auba and Ozil both this season, or just one big money player? Look, I think with Ozil, I think he'll stay just because the club would have wanted to get rid of him a long time ago. They've tried to get rid of him a long time ago, but he's not going. Why would he when he's earning the money he's earning? He loves London. So I think they'll try again this summer, probably to shift him on, but at the end of the day, it's up to Ozil. If Ozil doesn't want to go, and his agents come out repeatedly and said he's not going to go until the end of his contract, then you can't shift Ozil on. It's as simple as that. So I think Ozil will stay. Aubameyang, I've already talked about. It's still up in the air, but I think if a big offer comes in for Aubameyang, I think the club are going to have to accept it, just given finances. If they're not in the Champions League, I think they can't afford to lose him on a free, so they'll probably accept it. I've already said I don't want that to happen, but I think that will happen. Nelson asks, which 3 positions in the current squad would you strengthen? But by doing so, you must lose the current player that fills this position. Number 10, absolutely. Look, I love Mesut Ozil. I've loved watching him at Arsenal. I think he's been fantastic, but Arsenal have to move away from Mesut Ozil. For me now, he doesn't offer enough. He's not setting up goals as many. I know he set up Lacaz's goal against West Ham before the break, but I just think Arsenal need to move away from Ozil. I'm not saying he can still play, still be in the squad, but I think in terms of a regular starter, they need more. They need someone who's going to score more goals from that position as well. Ozil just doesn't score any goals, barely scores in. You need more from your number 10 or your creative player than just setting up goals. He's got to score as well. So, but yeah, I'd absolutely, move on. Coutinho's been mentioned, and Coutinho's obviously his agents, Kia Joorabchian, who pretty much runs Arsenal now. In terms of transfer strategy and business, I'd still doubt that could happen. But someone, certainly when you look at Coutinho at his Liverpool days, what he used to contribute goals and assist wise, I'd love something like that at Arsenal. So I'd certainly change Ozil. Right back, I would change again Hector. Big fan of him, think he's been great, but I'm a little bit worried about Hector's fitness. Not so much fitness, but he just looks like he's lost his pace since he's come back from the injury, which is understandable given how bad the injury was. I think Arsenal need more from the right back position, and I still think they need something better in central midfield as well. We've obviously got Saliba coming in at centre back, which is going to be hopefully going to be a boost. I know he's young, but he looks very talented. But a real sort of strong physical presence, can drive box to box in midfield to play alongside probably Granit Xhaka. I'd say those three would be mine. Central midfield, right back, number 10. Kyle, I think it's Kyle, asked which players are likely to leave in the summer. I would say players who are likely to leave in the summer. I'm not sure about Xhaka. I think he's been really impressed by Arteta, and Arteta really likes Xhaka, but I'm still not sure if he was going to go in January. He absolutely made his mind up. He was going to go after what happened with the fans. And although that's been smoothed over and he's playing and he's enjoying it under Arteta, I still wouldn't be surprised if Xhaka moves on in the summer. Mustafi as well, Mavropanos, I think will probably go. I wouldn't be surprised if Torreira went, which is a shame because I think Torreira is an excellent player, but still doesn't seem to be getting in the side regularly as a starting presence. Obviously he's injured at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if possibly he goes if another central midfielder comes in. I don't know about Kolasinac. You think one of the left backs will probably go, and it can't be Tierney, given they've spent so long scouting Tierney, years chasing him, finally signed him. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kolasinac also makes way in the summer. There'll be big changes, no doubt about it, but a lot depends on if clubs actually want these players. Arsenal can try and move people on as much as they want. They've been trying to do that for a long time. I've said it with Ozil, but unless there's a buyer out there or someone who's willing to pay their wages, then they won't move on. And that's the problem with Arsenal, because their wage bill's so high at the moment still that they're difficult to move on. Snudgy asked my favourite Arsenal kit. I think I love the bruised banana. I know it's a generic answer that everyone says it, but I did love it. It was my lucky kit. I had it as a kid. Wore it everywhere. I wore it underneath my green Ian right jumper. Used to wear it everywhere. And my yellow scarf. It was my lucky kit for so long. I always used to wear it. I loved it. But I love the 98 double kit, the red one. I had Bergkamp 10 on the back, and I just love that kit. I've still got it actually in a drawer down there. So yeah, I'd probably say Bergkamp, the 1998 double kit with Nike. I really, really love that. MAAA Gunner asks, how did you get to become a journalist working closely with a club you love? After a lot of hard work, trust me, MAAA Gunner, it took me about 20 years to get to where I am now. Actually about 18 years. Started off as a junior reporter covering news here around where I live now, Slough and Windsor area, sitting in council meetings, parish council meetings, seeing people arguing about fence posts that had been put up 2 metres further away than they should have been, sitting in those meetings till 10, 11, 12 at night, thinking, I want to pull my eyes out here. But that's where it all started, and then eventually carried on, moved up, became a senior news journalist, then moved into sport, which was always the aim. Started covering Reading in the Championship and in the Premier League. Did that for an awful lot of years, and eventually moved on, then got the opportunity at Football London to cover Arsenal, and then obviously moved over to Goal as well. So that's it. It's taken an awful long time. There's been an awful lot of low points along the way, but it's all been worth it. So yeah, I'm in a very, very fortunate and lucky position now. I know that. A lot of people asking, I won't go through all these questions, but a lot of people asking about Aubameyang. Will he stay? Look, it's down to Aubameyang. I don't know. I just don't know if he's going to stay at the moment. I know that Arteta wants him to stay. I know that Arsenal want him to stay, but until the season finishes and it's going to be impossible to predict if Aubameyang's going to stay. I'd say now, looking at it, I think it probably would veering on the side of unlikely, but you never know. You never know. Anton and a few others asking, do you think the season will continue or be declared null and void? I think it will continue. I think they'll get it done, even if it's way, way down the line, they'll get it done, because legally I think they'll be open to so many issues if they don't get it finished. I think they'll do everything in their power to finish it, because if they don't, I'm not even talking about Liverpool winning the league, but I'm talking about relegation, who comes up from the Championship, things like that. If any of those clubs who, say Leeds in the Championship, if they're suddenly told, right, you can't come up with scrapping the season, Leeds are going to be fuming and understandably will take legal action. You imagine if Aston Villa got relegated now because they called the season off, Villa have obviously got a game in hand. They legally, I just don't see how they can scrap the season. So I think to save on all the lawyers' fees, they will find a way of getting the season done. So I'd say that's probably the most likely outcome. Vincent asked what the chances of landing Thomas Partey. I've already talked about that. And Upamecano, I can never get it right. Upamecano, no. Just call him Diop, shall we? Leipzig. I think it's unlikely. They really like him. They've wanted him for a while. They were talking about it last summer. Didn't get it done in the end. Too much money, and I think he's going to be too much money now. He's putting some very good performances in the Champions League this season. Everyone knows he's available coming towards the end of his contract. And I think, unfortunately, there's just going to be too many clubs in that race. I said the same thing about Nicolas Pepe last season, though, and I got proved to be totally wrong with that. Arsenal managed to win the race for Pepe, but I just think it's going to be a little bit too hard. And he might be a little bit too much money as well, especially with Saliba coming in already. So I think it's unlikely. I'd say out of the two, Partey is the more likely. Dyer asked, will Saka stay? I certainly hope so. Arsenal trying to get that done at the moment. There's been a lot of criticism about Arsenal and how they've been allowed to get in this situation, but it's a little bit different with these young players, because when they're so young at that age, they're only allowed to sign sort of 3 years when they sign their first professional contract. So I think it's no surprise that he's approaching the end of his deal. It's just that suddenly he's been so good this season that the spotlight's sort of fallen on it, and now he's in a fantastic situation, and his agent's in a fantastic situation, because there's going to be clubs all around the world wanting to sign him, and Arsenal obviously doing all they can to keep him to sign a new deal. So I think he'll stay. I hope he'll stay. We asked him about it last time. He didn't sound that committal, but then he wouldn't. But last time we spoke to him, he said he's enjoying his football here. He loves it here. He's been at Arsenal since he was 8, I think, 9. So I hope he'll stay. It'd be a real hammer blow for Arsenal if he doesn't. Given the sort of time they've put into developing him, and now he's coming on and done so well this season and last season, it'd be horrible. So I hope he stays. Jeff asks, I've heard stories about Cazorla playing one last game for Arsenal. How possible is it? I think that if that was going to happen, it wouldn't be a competitive game or anything. It'd be in the Emirates Cup. And it was something that's being discussed. It's been, how do Arsenal get Cazorla back for his big send-off? I think the club are very willing to do it, are open to do it. They want to find a way of doing it. If Villarreal came over for the Emirates Cup, he could play one half for Villarreal, one half for Arsenal, and get the big send-off. The only issue is, obviously, there's probably not going to be an Emirates Cup this summer now because of what's happened with coronavirus, and the season's going to be extended, and we don't know when the next season's going to start. So it's going to be. Hopefully it will happen at some point. I think there's certainly a willingness on both sides for it to happen. It's just unfortunately because of what's going on with coronavirus, I think it might prove to be a little bit difficult this summer. We might have to wait another year for it. Biddo asked, what do you think of Draxler as a replacement for Ozil? Not for me. I think Draxler's been on the fringes of Paris Saint-Germain for a fair while now, and I don't think he's a replacement for Ozil. I liked him a few years ago. I remember thinking Arsenal should have signed him a few years ago when he was being linked. I thought he could have made a difference coming from out wide, but I think at the moment certainly he's a replacement for Ozil. No, there's better players out there. Richard asks, do you see Smith Rowe getting a proper chance next season? Absolutely. Arsenal really rate Smith Rowe. He's not been farmed out on loan just to sort of prepare him for a move away. He's been sent out on loan to come back and really ever go for that, to make a sort of real attempt at getting in the first team next season. And we're talking there about Ozil, possibly replacements for Mesut Ozil. I think Smith Rowe, he could be that man long term. Really, really exciting player. Not many players like him. Maybe Joe Willock's sort of similar to him in terms of when he gets on the ball and he runs with the ball, drives forward from deep, getting in and around the penalty area. Always got a knack for getting on the end of a pass as well, in and around the penalty area. Scores goals. I really like Smith Rowe. I think he's an exciting player, and I think he'll get a chance next season, no doubt about it for me. Right, I'll quickly flick on to my YouTube one now and see. If there's any questions here that I can quickly do. I can hear my children are outside. They've come upstairs to go to the toilet, so I'm expecting any minute that door to burst open now and them come bounding in here and ruin this after about 40 minutes of me doing it. Let's have a look. Andrew says, first of all, thank you very much. He says, you're an incredible sports journalist. Thank you very much, Andrew. I'd like to see what you should do for Arsenal at summer in the transfer market, including sales purchases. I've kind of already answered that, actually, Andrew. So I won't really go over it all again because it's already in the video, but I do appreciate your question on YouTube. And I appreciate all the comments on YouTube as well. Sorry that I haven't really been putting too many videos on here recently, but obviously with what's been going on and sort of balancing homeschooling with my children as well now, it's all proving a little bit difficult. So I'm happy I've come on and I've managed to get this one out of the way. And for those who haven't managed to answer your questions, I do apologise, but there's so many of them, and I'd be sitting here talking for about 2 hours if I'd have answered them all. So I do apologise for all of that. But I hope that I've sort of been able to, I don't know, clear things up a little bit in terms of what might go on at Arsenal this summer, or what's going on right now. If I haven't, then I apologise. Haven't been doing my job right. But it's I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much. I'll carry on trying to do this throughout the next few weeks, probably once a week, something like that, just to give you something to watch, give you something new to watch, and hopefully we can have some real football to talk about in the not too distant future. Because it would be nice. I'm looking out there now, sunshine, not cloud in the sky, perfect football weather. I think we all wish we could be looking forward to a game this weekend. Not going to happen, unfortunately, but I'll still try and keep you updated as much as I possibly can. So thank you very much for watching. Speak to you soon.